This is Texans TV.
Hola, ¿qué tal, mis amigos? Y gracias por acompañarnos. Wait, sorry, that's a different show. I apologize. But this is Texans Playbook. I am Drew Doherty, and a little bit later on, we are going to head to Monterrey, Mexico, and we're going to have a good time doing that. But we're going to start things off talking with General Manager Nick Caserio, as well as Pro Football Hall of Famer Cris Carter, amongst other things. And we'll begin with the head coach himself, DeMeco Ryans, going one-on-two with John Harris and Marc Vandermeer of the Texans radio crew.
Here we are with head coach DeMeco Ryans. Coach, great to see you. Big week with the Colts coming in. I know we have to review what happened against the Packers. And how do you balance what went wrong in the game and what went right also? Because there were some good things you want to take with you, but you got to correct a lot of things as well.
Man, great to be with you guys again. It was what you said, Mark. That's what it was. Like, every game for me is a learning opportunity. It's a teaching opportunity as we go back and review the game. Man, like you said, there were a ton of positive things, a ton of big plays made by offense, defense, special teams that I never lose sight of. So I want our guys to see the impact plays that were made. Our special teams played outstanding, right? Damian was able to get an explosive return. Tommy punted the ball really well. I mean, we forced a turnover on special teams, and we had a couple punts where we backed them up. Man, Kaimi making all of his kicks. So they played outstanding for us. They created momentum for our team. And defensively, guys were able to get two takeaways, get a couple sacks. Offensively, when we ran the ball really well. Right? Ran the ball really well. And then when we needed a drive to go down and get points, we got points at the end to give us a chance, right, to close the game out. So a lot of great things that happened. It didn't end the way we wanted it to end, but we learned from that. And I hope our guys take from the game is, man, we were in position, right? And moving forward, like, we're in position again. Hopefully you understand, remember that moment in Green Bay where we didn't close it out and the things you need to change and do different to put yourself in position to make plays.
Coach, through the first 5 games, Henry and Aziz had played every play linebacker. Yeah. Now they're not there. And you go in there and it's just different. It's Neville and it's Jake. How did that go, just communication-wise? It felt like Neville, there was no drop-off. There was no change. Those guys went out and made plays. What did you think of the way those 2 linebackers played yesterday?
Yeah, Neville was a veteran linebacker, and he stepped right in. And like you said, was no issues with communication. He communicated very well. He did his job very well. Neville and Jake, both guys had really good weeks of practice. And so that gave me confidence as a coach going into the game that they were going to be in the right spots. They were going to make some plays. Was it all clean? No, but man, for those guys to step in and play the most that they played in a long time, like, I'm very proud of the way, the effort that they gave and even the playmaking that they made as well.
Plus, you get 2 picks in the game. Neville has 1. Kalen has the other. He has 3 on the season. And you had other opportunities as well. I see the safeties and the DBs, coach, practicing those tip drills, whatever, just launching the ball back there, trying to help them catch it. But it's tough sometimes to get the ball located properly, yet you did make some plays.
Yeah, you made play. I mean, as I showed the guys, like, when you see on Kalen's interception, like, when the coverage is tight and we're playing single high safety and the coverage is tight and Kalen is roaming the middle of the field, he can go up and make those plays. You just have to force the quarterback, all right, to elevate the throw. And Kalen can go make any catch he needs to make. But it starts with the rush. It starts with the coverage. That was tight on Neville's pick. It just goes back to what I harp on and what I truly believe in is out-executing your opponent. And on Neville's interception, you got to watch Jalen Petrie and his technique as a quarter flat defender on number 2. Like, he played with excellent technique, patience, and for him to get his eyes back on the quarterback and to tip the pass, it was outstanding play by him and caused Neville to get the interception. So it's just a reminder for our guys, just always truly believe in your technique and execute. If you execute well, that's when the big plays are made. It's not when you try to go and do something out of the scheme or try to make a hero play. That's not when the big plays happen.
How long did it take you as a player or coach to really get in that mindset of that you can really let that one go and then start going forward to the Colts?
Yeah, it took a long time for me because those losses hurt. Yeah. It hurts, man. And what I learned is sometimes on those losses and you let them linger into like the Thursday, Friday, now that affects the next game. Right. And And that's what I don't want to happen, right? And then I was telling you guys, being in the league for a while now, I've seen people ride the wave of when you win, you're the best team, you're the hottest team, and you're moving up the ranks as the top. Like, that means nothing.
Right.
Like, and when you lose, oh my goodness, they stink. They're the worst team ever. And it's just that roller coaster of week to week, whether you win, you lose, win, lose. Like, you're the best, you're the worst. Best is there's never any. And so if you ride that wave, man, you go crazy. You pull all my hair out, even though it's already gone. But you cannot go crazy trying to ride that wave. So that's forced me of just to say, hey man, just stay even keel, calm, 24-hour rule, learn from it, and move on to the next opponent.
Well, we know you want that game day energy with your players. You want them to be enthusiastic. There were some spirited conversations that appeared between the Texans and the Packers. What about that part of it? You want them to be intense and into it, but how do you draw the line there? How do you regulate that, Coach?
Yeah, for me, I told our guys, it's like you're wasting energy. Like, and I don't like wasted energy. Like when we're chirping after the play or before the game, we're getting into it with the opponent. Like, how does that help you? Like, I want all of that energy that you have to chirp after a play. How about putting that into some more energy and effort to finish a block or to finish on a catch? Like, that's where I want the energy going. Like, it's wasted energy. It has nothing to do with the game. Like, and it really pulls your focus away from your job. And that's why I don't like all the bickering and back and forth. Like, I want guys focused on us. And there I felt like versus the Packers, I did feel like we got a little too chirpy, a little too chatty, pushing after the plays, but we weren't doing what we needed to do within the play. And that's where I have a problem.
Coach, for the last time during regular season, 2 in a row on the road, those are behind us. How good is it to be coming back home for Sunday?
Whew, man, great to be home. We're excited to be home in front of our home crowd. I feel like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So, man, we're excited to feel that energy from our crowd, and we need it. Like this game, big game this week, we need the energy just like when we've been on the road in Minnesota and in Green Bay, their fans have affected the game by being loud on third down and causing communication issues for us. So, Houston, can we get some loud noise on third down to affect our opponent? Like, we need it more so than ever. We need it this week.
All right, the Amegy Bank Ask Coach question of the week. It's Andre Johnson Day on Sunday. He gets his Hall of Fame ring. So, do you have a favorite Andre Johnson moment? I don't know if we've asked you this. Do you have a personal fave? Because you played with him, so does anything stand out to you?
So many moments.
Washington, that game?
Yeah, Washington, definitely. Washington overtake game there for him to close it out. Of course, Cortland Finnegan. That moment
Even the coach says it.
Yeah, that one always sticks out. Sometimes you just got to let them know. But, man, Dre is just so many special moments. Just sitting on the sideline and just watching him perform like game after game when no slight to any of my former teammates, but when Dre was the best person on the field, the best receiver, and everybody knew the ball was going to him, and Dre is like triple covered, and we're still throwing the ball to him, and he still comes down with the ball time and time again. It's just one of the best players I've ever had the chance to play with, and I'm so happy for him and his Hall of Fame status now. He's definitely he's definitely big time, right? And he deserves it, man. Just why. And another moment for Dre for me is like as a young player coming into the league, like watching how guys practice. Like for me, watching how Andre practiced, like he practiced so hard, and I hardly ever seen him drop a football in practice. And that's one thing that stood out to me. Like he practiced that way, and it showed up on Sunday that way. So it was a pleasure of being his teammate, being his friend, and just seeing the effect that he had on the team, on the community. When we weren't great as the Texans, Dre was always that bright spot for us.
Coming up, General Manager and Executive Vice President Nick Caserio joins the program.
Texans Playbook is sponsored by Community Coffee, strong as our roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Texans sitting at 5-2 in 2024, gunning for win number 6. And General Manager, Executive Vice President Nick Caserio recently chatted with the Texans radio crew.
Joining us now in studio, Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, good to see you.
Fellas, good to be here.
All right, we've got a huge game with the Colts coming up this week. Massive outing on Sunday. Let's review Green Bay first. You're right there at the end. A lot of things went wrong throughout the day. Had a chance to win, unable to pull it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Regardless of what happened during the course of the game, there were some ups, there were some downs. We did some good things, did some things we probably would like to have back. Still had an opportunity to win the game there in the fourth quarter. Went down there, kicked a field goal to go up, and then Green was able to move the ball and get in position there, kick the game-winning field goal with no time left. So we were on the opposite end of basically what happened in Buffalo a few weeks ago. So credit to Green Bay, really good football team, number of good players, very well coached. So we knew it was going to be a challenge going on the road playing against them, and the game kind of played out about how we thought it was going to go. So they made some plays, and we made some plays, made a few more plays in the running game than we did in the passing game. Kicking game really kind of kept us in the game between a kicking game and the turnovers, the takeaways on defense. So that's all you're really hoping for, is have an opportunity to win in the fourth quarter, put ourselves in a position. In the end, Green Bay made a few more plays.
Nick, let's talk about those two things, kind of the good and the bad of it. Run game, really good. I mean, Joe had a number of seams, 2 touchdown runs, were really well blocked. Tight ends did a nice job. Pass protection, not as great. Kind of how do you break down those two, and how do you – I know it's tough. You're not always going to have them both at the same point, whether they're both bad or both good. But the way that the pass protection was versus the way the run blocking was, it was like really good, not so good. How do you kind of, how do you look at that?
Yeah, sure. You really have to look at everything. But when you look at it, in the end, the passing game is about third down. So it goes back to situational football. So our ability to kind of execute situationally in those third down situations. They did a good job stressing some things. We had some errors on our end that are easily fixable and correctable. So there's going to be some things that pop up during the course of the game and have to get them fixed. That's part of the job. Go back after the game, look, what do we do well? What are some of the areas we can improve? Can we make some modifications and adjustment? And then figure out like what we can carry for the next week. And then what are some things that we're going to do different that are specific to the opponent, which in this case will be the Colts.
Yeah, because when you run the ball as well as you did, you'd think play action and those things would go really well, but it didn't go as well as you wanted to throwing the football.
Yeah, just never really gotten to probably as good of a rhythm as we would have hoped. So had our moments, had some chunk plays there, you know, completion of Schultz earlier in the game on the over route. So it was kind of sporadic, but in the end, still had an opportunity to win the football game.
Right.
Didn't turn the ball over, which is always a good thing. And possessing the ball was one of the focal points for us offensively. So we're able to do that. It really, all these games, and we've talked really religiously on this show, come down to situational plays. That come down to third down, come down to the red area,
right,
and then the whole turnover situation. So when you look at that game, Green Bay converted in the red area. We had the 2 stops in the red area, and then third down was about a wash with the advantage in the takeaways, and then it came down to really a situational play at the end. So that's football. You look around the league, that's what it is. When we talk about the Colts, when you look at their season, every game has been a 1-score game. So that's what this league's about.
How important is it for everybody in the organization to look at those positive things and continue to do those, yet correct the things that need to be corrected and not beat yourselves up too much, knowing that, hey, you're 5-2 and it's a huge opportunity on Sunday?
There's always a natural inclination either way. You win, you feel a certain way. You lose, you feel a certain way. In the end, in some respects, there are a lot of similarities. So you just... maybe your outlook, maybe your mindset, a little bit more jovial when you walk in the building. But by and large, look, one team's going to win, one team's going to lose. It happens every week. Got to come in with the right mindset, have a very, I would say, be purposeful, and have a good outlook and have a good process, and just be honest with ourselves and realize the sun came up. So we should all be excited to be here and try to get back to work and try to improve and just try to get ready for the next opponent.
We're 5-2, and there have been years we've been sitting at this table, we've not been 5-2. So looking at it from that perspective as well, I'm obligated to ask you about a rookie of the draft or something along those lines. So I'm asking about Kalen Bullock, and I asked this of DeMeco the other day of what does the presence of Bullock, just his range in the middle of the field, how does that change things for him? And he said not so much for him calling plays, but he said for the other defenders knowing, hey, look, if we're sticking in coverage, we know the ball is going to be floating. He's going to go get it. When you guys were scouting Kalen, Were those the things that you focused in on more than anything else? What did you kind of see that you thought would translate to him having some success early in his rookie campaign?
Yeah, we felt he was kind of a uniquely skilled player. So almost 6'3", 190 pounds, runs well, covers a lot of ground, started his career as a corner, then kind of transitioned there to safety. Had really played since his freshman year, and he showed the propensity to get his hands on the football at USC regardless of the year. So anytime a player gets his hands on the football or is involved, it leads you to believe he has some level of awareness, some level of instincts, and a certain level of skill that goes along with it. So we just felt the overall composition of his skills fit with our group and would complement it very well. And even though he's a younger player, he's pretty mature. He goes about his work with the right mindset. I'd say Stephen A's done a really good job working with him and kind of getting him ready to play. And then when he's gone on the field, he's taken advantage of his opportunities. So when a player does that, then your teammates around you can realize, hey, we can count on that guy to hopefully do the right thing on a consistent basis. And then he has production behind it. I don't know, he's near the top of the league in interceptions, or as rookies, he's probably one of the top rookies in terms of taking the ball away. So he's certainly made progress from where he started to where he is now. So we're only 7 games into his career, whatever it is. He certainly has room for improvement, but he's made an impact when he's been on the field, and it's certainly helped our team and helped the defense.
Your defense is second in the league in total yards, and you go into that game thin at linebacker. Jake Hansen and Neville Hewitt, these are special teams demons. But we talked about Neville a little bit last week. He can tackle people, and so can Jake, by the way. Can you talk about those two, especially Jake, acquiring him? Lovey had him in college. Did you talk to Lovey at all about how Jake was in college when you evaluated him?
Yeah, really can't say enough great things about those two players on Sunday. They were prepared, they were ready to go, they showed up, and they produced. Neville led us in tackles. I think Jake was second or third in tackles. So when you go back and look at the arc of Jake's career at Illinois, the biggest bugaboo was the durability injuries. Right, that's the thing that kind of set him back. But very well thought of, highly well thought of. We actually took him even though he wasn't quite ready to play, but because of the person that he was, we had those conversations with Lovey. He thought very highly of him, just the overall person, his intelligence, his instinctiveness. And since he's been here, those have all kind of come to fruition and manifest themselves. So a lot of credit to Jake and Neville for the way that they prepare. They're very professional, and that's a good example of a player being ready to take advantage of their opportunity when they're called upon, understanding you really don't know when that's going to take place, understanding you're going to have a role each game day on fourth down, which when you get to the game on fourth down, that's going to give you an opportunity to maybe play offensively or defensively. So a credit to those players, credit to Billy Davis and Ben Bowling for the work that they did to get them ready to go.
Okay, most of the time, if not all the time that you've been on this show, when we ask you a question, we kind of have some idea of what you're going to say. I don't know the answer to this one at all, but we were totally confused during the game. There was that 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike on the Packers on the extra point. And we went, so Kaimi moves up 15 yards, but he kicked the ball out of bounds. And the ball didn't go to the 40, the ball went to the 25.
So you get double 15-yard
It's one of these nuances of the rules. So other than, honestly, that's the way they kind of set the rule up. So there's a tweak and a nuance because of the dynamic kickoff rules.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of leave it there.
So it's a 2-for-1 opportunity.
It's kind of a nuanced sort of situation. So I'm
so
sure you weren't the only one that probably wasn't wondering what the hell was going on.
Right.
We were confused.
Well,
we were all talking about it
because he kicked it out of bounds.
We talked about it, so we knew, hey, look, we're going to try to situationally handle this kick, and if it goes out of bounds, then they'll get the ball there.
Oh, I see.
So there was a little bit of strategy.
We were kind of close to that reasoning afterwards. Like maybe it wasn't on purpose, but they didn't, because of the penalty. There was probably something that said if they kicked out of bounds, it wouldn't hurt them that much. So that was an odd point of the game, like trying to figure that whole thing out. Why is the ball to 25? It's odd.
Let's see if it actually happens again.
You did get some good special teams play, though, on Sunday, and that's something that I know you hang your hat on. You want that to be solid week to week.
It's a huge part of the game each week. So let me say Tommy probably had one of his better weeks. So Tommy's had his moments, been a little bit up and down, but had a really good week of practice, and he carried that over into the game. Hit some balls that we covered. We got the muff. We got the ball. Made the tackle inside the 5-yard line. Kadar, DP, had another good kickoff return. So those plays are going to add up. And honestly, between those plays and the takeaways on defense, kind of kept ourselves in the game there a little bit, which just speaks to, at some point, every phase, every player, like their role is important. You never really know which play is going to impact the game. So want to try to go out there and just perform and execute. The theme of the week was execute and finish, and there were times that we did that, but in the end, we just didn't really finish well enough. But I mean, that's football. But a credit to Bake and to Will and Frank for the work that they put in with that group.
Coming up, knock, knock, knock. Cris Carter was the guy who told Andre Johnson, hey, you're coming to Canton with me. You're going to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and we're going to hear from Carter and Dre in just a bit. We appreciate you sticking with us here on Texans Playbook. And Andre Johnson has been doing a fun interview series with us called GOAT Talk. He and former Pro Bowler Jonathan Joseph have just interviewed some big names, guys like Shaquille O'Neal and Gary Kubiak and Michael Irvin, as well as Cris Carter. The Pro Football Hall of Famer was the guy who actually knocked on Andre Johnson's door back in January to tell him, hey, you're coming to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and you're getting a gold jacket. Well, Carter sat down via Zoom with those two, and they had a fun conversation. You can enjoy a snippet of that here.
What's up, guys? Special guest today, Philadelphia Eagle, Minnesota Viking, great friend of mine, and Mr. 275, if I'm not mistaken, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. What's going on, brother?
All good, man. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. I got my brother J. Joe here with me. Just going back to Philly, man, you being drafted there. Tell me what that was like, the experience and things in Philly.
Well, the thing about, the league is you can't control where you're going to go. And, grew up in Ohio, went to Ohio State, and it was definitely an eye-opener for me being in a big city, just the hustle and bustle and just all the different options. And as a young person, if you want to find it, it's out there. And, Philadelphia, it was just a little too much for me. Great football team, Buddy Ryan, team dominated by the defense, looking for some offensive playmakers. But Randall Cunningham going into his second year. So very, very exciting times. And a lot of great guys in the locker room who would ultimately, take me under their wing and taught me a lot of different things. But truly a great sports town, but you have to have different levels of maturity when you go from the Midwest or Ohio and you're going into a city. And if you try to engage in that street life and things like that, it's easy to get caught up. And I'm sure you've seen that. But that was, that's my overall impression of being drafted by Philadelphia and spending 3 years there.
And speaking of Buddy Ryan, talk about that experience. He seemed like I've never got a chance to meet him. He seemed like a very fiery coach, man. So talk about him a little bit and being playing for him.
A very fiery coach. I think that his overall defensive philosophy and blitzing the quarterback, I think that it's not great to practice against, because when you're blitzing, playing a lot of man-to-man, and you're coming after your own quarterback, I thought it developed a lot of animosity, amongst the team. So that when we went out on the field, we were three different units: the offense, the defense, which was dominant, and the special team. So I think that really hurt our chance of maximizing the squad because of its overall intensity and how the defense pretty much dominated the team. And you have to have balance throughout your units.
Right. And, I wanted to ask something else, but I'm going to stay up there with Philadelphia. Talk about your time when you was in Philly to have a chance to be around a guy like Reggie White.
Reggie was amazing. Like, he truly was, he was the first man to ever tell me that he loved me. Me growing up, 7 kids, no father in the home, that was something very, very different. And Reggie was, one of those Christians who was exactly how he portrayed himself. He wasn't 2 or 3 different people, depending on what audience. He was consistent. But Reggie was a big, fun-loving guy. He joked and hung around with the best of the best and the worst of the worst on the team. So Reggie was a great role model for me. The impact he had on me in day-to-day and how to be a man and how to function in the NFL and how to do it at a high level and have balance. Like that's who Reggie White, that was what he kind of embodied.
All right. Another question I had, like personally for myself, I like to always play basketball in the off season and then, do that. And I always felt like it kept me in tip top shape, just to prepare myself to chase around the receivers in the NFL. And before you ever really got started to get to Ohio State, you pretty much, you wanted to follow in your big brother footsteps and, chase a career in basketball. Can you talk about that a little bit? Your brother being drafted by the Lakers in the NBA.
Yeah, actually, I was the youngest of 4 boys. All of them went on basketball scholarships. My oldest brother went to the NBA. So I would say from a family standpoint, there was a lot of pressure on me to play football. And in high school, I literally was a better basketball player throughout my high school career than I thought as a football player. And Dre will understand this, and basketball is a game of angles. And I love the angles. And playing wide receiver and defensive back is a game of angles. And that type of math, I always enjoyed working it in my head. And I felt like it gave me an advantage. I felt like rebounding was like going to the ball at its apex. And I felt like I could do that better than anyone else. So I think that a lot of the skills from the 2 sports, being receiver, basketball, defensive back basketball, I believe that they transfer over, that become functionable, that you can utilize them. So a lot of times, if you're running a choice route, you just basically posting up on a guy and you're utilizing your footwork at the top of the route to be able to get positioned so that they can still feed you just like you were in the post. So I thought the skills were very, very transferable. But then once I became one sport and you start donating all your time to the tricks and the fundamentals, I was amazed at just how much better that I got in football when I wasn't playing basketball. But basketball was a huge asset, not only to me, but, a bunch of other guys. Fitzgerald played a lot of basketball. I know when we were younger, Moss, when he came into the league, we played a lot of basketball together. Paul Pepper, we played a lot of basketball together. Brad Johnson, like all of us hooped together.
Speaking of Randy Moss and Brad, I know you played with them in Minnesota. You going over to Minnesota, speak about that and your time there and what that was like.
Right. Even though in Philadelphia, because I had an abbreviated rookie season, because I was in the supplemental draft, which didn't happen until the beginning of September. So I missed all the training camp, all mini camp. So I could really only make just a slight contribution to the Eagles in my first year. But my second year, after the mini camps, OTAs, I started all 17 games. My third year, I started all 17 games. But when I got cut, I thought that I'd be going right to Minnesota and taking over where I was in Philadelphia, and that's not the case. They had Anthony Carter, was their featured wide receiver, and he played my position, X receiver. And then they had Hassan Jones from Florida State playing the Z, Steve Jordan, all pro, playing tight end. So I was a backup immediately, so it was a tough adjustment. So I just immediately started going on scout team. I started getting as many reps as I could. I started trying to tear them defensive backs they face. Like I was getting all the reps. The coach would have to take me out. Like I was in there like, no. They throw that card up there. I'm like, okay, who got the red dot on? Okay, I'm him. And I just started working the dude. And the receiver coach at the time, he put me right behind Anthony Carter at X. And I was like, I knew Anthony, even though he was a Pro Bowl player, like he was a little out of position at X because he was a small guy with speed and quickness. And if you're going to be an X, man, you got to be a big dude. Right. I mean, and I just thought that they weren't giving me a fair shake. So I just went, man, just total practice mode. I'm getting ready to prove to these guys. So in that season, I started 5 games, and I think 3 or 4 of them I went over 100 yards. So when the season ended, we hired Dennis Green, and then he also hired Tom Moore, and they called me and said they were going to build the offense around me. So if Dennis Green wouldn't have came there, man, I don't know what would have happened in Minnesota. Like I would have been like a lot of guys, man. When you go to another team, they move you back. And then if you don't have a system that's going to help you develop your skills that you can dominate in some type of way, like it's hard to be a dominant player in this league. So if you get on the wrong team and they run the wrong system and you don't have someone that's looking out for you, man, it's really hard to be great in this league. And I'm sure you both can relate to that.
After a quick timeout, we've got more Cris Carter on GOAT Talk with Andre Johnson and Jonathan Joseph. We're back here on Texans Playbook, and just a moment ago, you heard from Cris Carter. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer who shared a lot of experiences as a player that Andre Johnson had when he was a player with the Houston Texans. It's an illuminating conversation, and here's part 2 of that right here.
Once I put my shoulder pads on, you have that moment when you're in the locker room. They call the different groups to go out. I would never put my shoulder pads on until they said we had 2 minutes before it was time for us to go out on the field. And that was like a switch for me, like on game day. Like once I put them shoulder pads on, I went from Dre to whomever else, without on the field. What was it for you that just got you going? Like what was it on game day that really got you, like just turned you from Cris Carter to whoever?
I used to always say to myself, man, they don't know who I am.
All right.
I used to always just repeat that, man, they don't know who I am. Man, they don't know what I'm about. Man, they don't know nothing about me. Man, they don't respect me. Those are the things I used to say to myself from the time I get to the arena.
Right.
And for me, I'm an energy guy. Now, I don't have to be saying anything to have energy, but I know how to measure my energy to build due. I know I got to play with a lot of energy to get the best out of me. So for me, I'm tapping into myself. I got the game plan. I know the looks we're going to get. I know how they're going to try to defend me. So it's me against me. And I'm always talking about leaving a mark on the game. Leave a mark on a guy. When this guy get done with me, I'm going to leave a mark on him, right on his brain. He going to know he been with CC. I'm going to leave a mark on him. If I get one-on-one on the sideline, I'm going to act like I'm going out of bounds. I'm getting ready to leave a mark on him. I'm getting ready to try to hit him. I'm getting ready. So that conversation with myself would always go on back and forth and back and forth. And then if the DB says something and engages in it, then it's like, oh, okay, now I got to participate. Okay, let's go. Now it's personal. That's the way I played. And I had to play, even when I play basketball now, every Saturday, Sunday, the guy's like, why are you playing so hard? You act like you're playing for a championship. I don't know better. Like, I really don't know no better. I don't know how to play half go. I don't know how to, hey, this is my buddy over here type thing. Like, I don't know how to do it. And that's one thing that you're going to see when you get in the Hall of Fame in the room and we go to the Ray Nitschke luncheon and you're like, man, all of us are the same. Yeah, crazy. Yes, all of us are the same. We all used to think that way. Oh my goodness. Like, and the stories just go back and forth. Man, Mean Joe Green tells me this story about when he gets drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they drafted 3 or 4 other Hall of Famers in that same draft. But the Pittsburgh Steelers had a tradition from Chuck Noll, who was a drill sergeant. When they came out of the locker room, everyone would run a lap around the field, and then they would start stretching. Mean Joe Green came from Black College, came there, got drafted first round. When he came onto the field, he sat down with his helmet, and everybody ran a lap. And then the coaches came out there and said, Joe, I need you to run a lap and everything. Mean Joe Green, the first day with the Pittsburgh Steelers, said, man, take me where they hit me. I ain't coming for all that running. So there's so many stories, there's so many commonalities to guys that got them gold jackets that, it's one of the best things about being in the room, Dre, is that it's the first room that I felt like I wasn't out of place. I felt like the dudes got me. Like, they understand me. Like, Ray Lewis understands me. Bruce Smith understands me. Jerome Bettis, he understands me. Aeneas Swim, he understands me. Emmitt Smith, he understands me. Michael Irvin, he understands me. Troy Aikman understands me. Dan Marino, he understands me. Joe Montana. And not just because we're all in the hall. I have had time to sit down with these dudes and discuss since I've been in 11 years.
All right.
And that's the thing that we can't tell you about the hall that is just so priceless, man. The sense of belonging and people who understand you, Dre, will be at an all-time high.
Let me I remember when you came to my house. This is what made me think of this by what you just said. You told me, you say you feel just like everybody else until you get the knock. That was something you told me when you was at my house. Can you explain that a little? Because I've been saying that, in a few of my interviews I've done. Can you kind of explain that, what that kind of means, or how that feeling is?
Well, it's and I'm gonna tell you, man, it's one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced, and because of not getting in when I thought I was going to get in, and that frustration and that bitterness, it was all gone. It was like instantly, like, good news, man, is never late. And it went from questioning it to such a relief of the acknowledgement that I had really pretty much forgotten about the process. And that's the way most of the guys are. Like, the good news is typically right on time. And I'm glad the classmates that I went in with, and I just have such a greater respect for the process. And I try to tell guys, as I've been telling you the last couple of years, hey, Dre, it's gonna happen, all right? Just be cool. Like, don't overreact like myself. It's painful, though. It's because you can't catch 12 touchdowns this year. You ain't playing with C.J. Stroud. You can't get 1,400 yards again, Dre. You can't get 100, lead the league in reception yards 2 years in a row again. You can't do nothing about it. So it's frustrating because now you go back to what we talked about when you were building your career. Man, these people don't respect me.
Right.
Like, I did all that training. I did all that stuff people didn't see, and they still don't respect my work. 14,000 yards. What? 77? What? Like I've never seen stats and stuff that were disrespected so much. Dudes got 13,000, 14,000 yards. Like, ugh. Put some respect on that.
Stick with us because we're shuffling with Chase B as well as Kaimi Fairbairn and Tommy Townsend. It's all coming up on Texans Playbook. We're back on Texans Playbook, and earlier in the show, you saw parts of GOAT Talk. That's an interview series between Andre Johnson and somebody really, really big from the world of sports, broadcasting, or whatever. We've also got a new interview series called The Shuffle with Chase B. Chase B, of course, is an international DJ and record producer, and he's had some fun conversations with a lot of our players, past and present, including this duo in The Specialist, Kaimi Fairbairn and Tommy Townsend.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to The Shuffle. I'm your host, Chase B, and we are here joined by, I'm not gonna lie, this might be like the littest special teams duo ever. You know what I'm saying? I'm loving the energy with these guys. We have Kaimi Fairbairn here and Tommy Townsend. We're not gonna take up too much of y'all time, but appreciate y'all coming here and sitting down with us. What's going on, y'all? How you feeling?
Yeah, what's happening? Great to be on. Thanks for having us.
So, just like some background information on you guys, Kaimi, you're actually obviously from Hawaii, and what's just like the sports culture out there compared to just the whole mainland U.S. when it comes to just even high school sports and just the pipeline of getting to the NFL from where you're from?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good showing as far as Hawaiians in the NFL. Like, Marcus Mariota he was great above me. Matt Taiteo, we went to the same high school. So there's definitely a culture there of football, but it's not too much different than the mainland.
All right.
Obviously, you got the ocean sports that are big.
All right.
And
were you involved in those when you were growing up? How involved were you with the ocean sports when you?
Shoot, I was a land sport, to be honest.
Oh, right.
I love land sports. My brother was big into the ocean. I grew that love for it. Now all I want to do is go back home and jump in the ocean.
Yeah, word.
Like there's paddling, surfing, obviously. I didn't do too much surfing, but I plan on learning and getting good at it.
Oh, word.
A little beach volleyball. Beach volleyball.
Were you locked in on the Olympics? Do you watch any sports?
Oh yeah, we had it playing 24/7 pretty much. Yeah, Cleveland.
Yeah. So Tommy, you're from Florida. What's that like when what was your high school upbringing? First of all, were you both soccer guys growing up, being kickers and punters? Were you both involved in soccer?
I mean, I wasn't. He is. We kick a soccer ball around like before practice, just like warm up a little bit. But yeah, I think the last year I played soccer was like maybe like third grade in the little like Catholic youth league. Yeah, it was like the co-ed like Catholic youth league. So like I think third grade was probably the last year I did that. But growing up it was just like every sport: football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, stuff like that. And then I just kind of like slipped into the punting thing. I mean, I was a running back growing up, and then I played corner and safety in high school, and I played baseball. And then my brother, he started punting like his sophomore, junior year.
Right, and he was in the league too, right?
Yeah, he was drafted by the Raiders in 18. And so when he was coming out, he started getting some scholarship offers, and I was like, shoot, like little brother mentality. Like,
right. I'm a little brother too, man. I can relate. For real.
Yeah.
Is it true? I did some research, bro. Is it true that you run a 4.7? Is that accurate?
Did you run at the combine? Yeah, I ran at the combine. Should have ran 4.7 something at the combine.
That's fast as hell, bro.
I wish I would have trained for it. I just kind of like went out and like ran it. Like I was telling myself going into it that I was going to train for it, but I mean, there's such like a big like kicking focus, like obviously going into it because that's what I'm there for. I'm not there for doing like the broads and like the 5.10 5s and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of the guys, like the other specialists, were doing that, and I was like, you know what, I'll just run it too.
That's dope as hell. So I want to ask you guys, I feel like one of the most exciting things about football are fake punts and fake field goals. How many have y'all run, either in the pros or in college, and what's like going through your head when those plays are called?
Have you run any fake? I hadn't had once, and not even high school.
For real?
I think it's me or something. I don't know.
We got to tell DeMeco, man, hey, we running some fake field goals this year, man.
You got to.
Yeah.
We plan them, but once it comes, the perfect situation has to come up.
Yeah.
It's harder to get field goal fakes than it is like punt fakes. Like the scenarios don't come up that much for field goal fakes.
Right.
Usually they want to take the points, get 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Después del descanso, vamos a Monterrey. Texans Playbook continues in a moment. We're back here on Texans Playbook, and the Houston Texans love their fans. They also love their fans internationally, and recently the club has made several trips to Monterrey, Mexico, including one that they took just a week ago. Here's some of the highlights from that journey. The Houston Texans recently hosted an all-girls flag football clinic in Monterrey, Mexico, the first of its kind hosted by an NFL team in the region. The event took place at the home of the Borregos and the football stadium located at the Tecnológico de Monterrey. Over 120 female flag football players were on hand to participate in flag football drills to help sharpen their skills. The clinic also included special appearances from Texans legend Travis Johnson, Toro, and the Houston Texans cheerleaders. They all signed autographs and took photos with the athletes in attendance. Following the clinic, participants and their families were invited to a Texan taquiza, where they enjoyed food and fun to close out the festivities. A special thanks to everyone who came out and supported this amazing opportunity. We can't wait to reconnect with our fans down in Monterrey and Mexico City again sometime soon, and we can't wait for you to watch Texans Playbook next week. For Gardy Swengby, who put this show together, I'm Drew Doherty. Till then, H is up.